Greeting and welcome to the Intensive Success Growth. I am your host, Nishant Sharma. Please give warm welcome to our guest, Jordan Carroll. Jordan is a remote job coach. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? And where were you surrounded that inspired you to do what you do today?
Well, I started traveling the world in 2018, and I was working for a company called Remote Year. And that company basically arranges travel trips for people that already work remotely to go to different countries each month. So I was doing that. I was traveling to a different country each month, and it was a very inspiring experience. And when I was working for the company, a lot of people would set up calls with us because they thought that we would help them find a remote job. But that wasn't the case. The programs were actually for people who already had a remote job. So after talking to enough people that thought that we would help them find a remote job, I realized, oh, there's a lot of people out there who are looking for a remote job. And I think that was one of the most inspiring moments for me to realize that I would go into this work in helping people find remote work, helping companies hire, and just being a remote work advocate.
Okay. What are the top 3 reasons why do people fail?
That's a great question. I think the top 3 reasons are they have a mindset that is actually predicated on failure. So a lot of people don't realize they have a lot of limiting beliefs, and they actually have already failed prior to trying, because in their mind, they're not believing in themselves. And it's hard to see because that's it seems so basic, but a lot of people kind of miss that because they can't see that in themselves. That's number 1. Number 2 is within the personal branding piece, and kind of how they show up online and how they articulate their value is not in a way that aligns to the types of jobs that they actually want. And I'd say number 3 is around relationships and networking. And I find that many job seekers don't do enough work to try to create relationships that will actually get them a referral at the company. They just focus on applying all day. And if you're just applying, you never really build a relationship with people at the company and give yourself a good chance of being hired.
How to make relationship like on LinkedIn or getting job?
How do I make what?
How anyone can make relationship for getting job?
Well, I have an ebook on that. That's free, so they can read my ebook. But I think the key is there's 3 ways that I look at it. Is called the 3 I's: information, introductions, and ideas. So at any point, you as a person can access information to share. You can come up with ideas to help someone, or you can introduce someone to someone. Those are 3 really good ways to provide value in a networking situation. Easiest way is just go online and start commenting. Like, comment on posts, but instead of saying great post, you actually say something thoughtful. I like the formula of compliment plus perspective plus open-ended question. So compliment the person on their post and why you thought it was a great post. 2, add your perspective and how you can relate to the post that they posted. And 3, ask an open-ended question to keep the conversation going. The easiest way to network is do that on at least 5 posts a day that you find are really targeted for what you're looking for in work.
What's your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Greatest failure story. Well, I think for me, one of the toughest things that I endured in my life was around substance abuse and alcohol. And so when I think about a failure, I think about the learning lessons that I had from drinking a lot of alcohol and eventually quitting alcohol. So I quit alcohol about 4 years ago. And before that, like especially in my late teens and early 20s, there was a lot of abuse that I had around drinking. And so being able to like turn that around and stop, and then also kind of change who I was and change my perspective of myself has probably been one of the biggest changes that I've had in my life.
Okay, great. So, like, how did you recover from alcohol habit?
Well, I think I first had to decide that I wanted to do something about it, because there were many years that I knew that I probably should have, but I just didn't do anything about it. And then you need to change your environment. So one of the big things that I did was I actually moved. I moved to a different state, and then I actually moved to different countries. And once I was able to do that, when you change your external environment, sometimes it becomes easier to change your internal environment, because I would go to these new places and people didn't know me. So I didn't have the relationships with them where we drank together, or I didn't have the predetermined perceptions or attitudes that they had of me as a drinker. I could be a non-drinker. So that was a really key way for me to start doing that, was to actually change my environment.
Okay. What's your success secrets that other can model from you?
Haha. Secrets. I don't know if there's any secrets anymore. I feel like most things that I would say are known, but maybe just lesser known. I think in every relationship, I look to try to be a valuable person in the relationship. So whenever I meet someone, the questions that I ask them are very important to, like, when you're just first getting to know somebody, I don't think enough people think about the questions that they ask to try to get someone to open up. So instead of asking like, what do you do? I ask people, what was the biggest win that you had from this week? Or what was your favorite part of this week? Or what is it that you're doing right now that really lights you up? So you ask questions in a way that gets people to talk about their passions and gets them to talk about what it is that they value. And what you might find is if you ask really good questions, you can get really good answers. So with those answers, maybe I find out that someone knows something or does something that they maybe wouldn't have told me if I hadn't asked a question like that. And then I can use that as a reference point to introduce them to somebody that I know. If you ask a lot of my friends, one of the things that I do is I consistently introduce them to new people. And I try to always be in the center, the connecting piece between multiple people, because when you can do that, you can be very valuable to people.
Yes, right. Like, it's like a networking. You're a network expert.
Yeah, like there's Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Outliers, and what he calls it is a connector. If you're a connector, you can sit in the middle of all these different other people, and those are the types of people that have the most success in the world,
Yes.
statistically.
Okay, what's your company motto?
Freedom, flexibility, fulfillment. So I try to think of those three things in as far as all that I do for my clients and for myself. Is it building more freedom? Is it building more flexibility? Is it building more fulfillment in my life and my clients' lives? I think those three things are really important, and they kind of, the first two especially go hand in hand, but without the last one, I think none of it really matters. You know, fulfillment is really important to kind of a deeper purpose.
Okay. Who is your ideal client?
Ideal client are typically people that have been in the workforce for about 5 to 10 years, have been successful in their roles and can do something that is remote. Typically, I work with a lot of people in the US. I've worked with people outside of the US, but it's usually easier with people in the US because of the way that the remote jobs are right now. I think it'll change in the future. I think it'll be easier. It's going to continue to get easier for people all over the world to get remote jobs. But people that generally have kind of a hustle attitude and want to work on self-development and want to better themselves and put themselves in a situation where they're working for a company that actually cares about them and is designed to work remotely and is remote first, rather than a company that maybe went remote during the pandemic but doesn't do it very well, or is bringing everybody back to the office.
Okay. So how do you deliver 5-star client experience?
Well, I care. Number one, I go over time on occasion when it needs to. I set up processes that make the experience smooth for them. I try to think of every little piece of it. I try to think of every little piece of the interaction between myself and a client. I make myself available to my clients. Obviously depending on the level of which they've purchased, but I think beyond all those things is just trying to anticipate what would be the expectation and then over delivering on that.
How do you crush your competition?
I don't really think there is competition. So I think there's only collaboration. I think that there's enough for everybody. So there are some other people that do what I do and they do a great job. And there are some people that if you saw them, you might consider them my competition, but we actually work together. So I think it's better to try to work with people rather than, be competitive with them. I am a competitive person in general, but I'm competitive the most with myself. I think that I'm really the only person that does what I do specifically. Like no one else is Jordan. So if I show up and I'm being myself, people will respond to that. And they may respond to someone else who is a competitor of mine who's doing the same thing, but they may like what they say better. So I want them to go where they want to go. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have people that are, all in on me and the way that I do things.
Okay. How do you handle rejections?
Yeah, I mean, I get rejected all the time. And I think that's just part of living in general. For me, I just try not to take it personally. I try to think in my head that there's reasons that people reject things, and it's not about me. It's about them doing what's best for them. And I try to think, whenever I get rejected, I try to put myself in my own shoes of a time when I rejected somebody and it had nothing to do with them. So, which I think is really important, because if you can remember that you've done it to someone and you did it not as a personal insult to the person, but because maybe you didn't have time, or maybe there was something else going on in your life that was really important, or maybe you were sick or whatever it is, like you can make that up in your head and try to put yourself there. And I think that's really important to have that perspective.
Okay. How do you handle rejections?
That was what I just answered.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Yeah.
I ask again. So how do you start your day?
It depends. I've been traveling a lot lately. So right now I'm in Bulgaria, which is about 10 hours ahead of where I typically am. So I've had to kind of change over time. I find that it's important to like change my routines based on where I am if I'm traveling, and suiting that for where I'm at. So as I'm here right now in Bulgaria, the way that I wake up and typically work for about an hour to 2 hours on some important tasks, and then I'll go work out, and then I will go to the spa downstairs. I'll go for a walk. I'll eat lunch, and then typically take a nap, and then I'll start a second work day around 4 or 5 p.m. because that's when people are waking up in the time zones that I typically work with. So it's actually right now it's very it's kind of weird. It's not normally like this, but normally I like to move first in the morning a little bit, or sometimes I do like to work too right away, just because usually when I wake up is when I have the most brain power.
What are you grateful for today?
I can tell you I have a journal right here that I write in every day, and I've got my gratitude is the first part of it. So I can read off a few of the things. So one of the ones that I had was I'm grateful for the amazing endorsements of my book. I'm writing a book right now, and I posted a podcast and an endorsement from one of my friends, Chase, today, and he's awesome. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for this company that I've been working with that helps me hire for another company, and I'm grateful for my ability to plan for the future. So those are the three things that I wrote down this morning.
Okay. How young are you?
How young am I?
Yes.
I'm 31.
Okay. You are not 31-year young. You are 18-year young with 13-year experience.
I'm 80 years young.
18-year young with
18.
13-year experience.
Got it.
So who is your living mentor and what's the impact?
Living mentor. I feel like I have a lot of people that I look up to in some way, but I don't really there's just people I follow on social media that I think are doing great things, and I'll watch their stuff sometimes, but I really like Isaiah Thomas, who is a basketball player. He is my favorite basketball player, and he's only 5'9", so he's even shorter than I am, but he plays in the NBA. So I really love his drive and tenacity and perseverance. And yeah, I just think it's really impactful to see somebody who is overcoming so many obstacles to live his dream.
Okay. What advice you will give younger yourself?
If I was giving advice to my younger self, I would probably say to be patient and to keep things simple. I think one of the things that I've done in my life as I've grown my own businesses and done different things is that I typically make things more complicated than they need to be. And I think there's a big payoff for people that are keeping it simple.
How can we support you?
Well, I have a book that I've written. It's on Kickstarter right now. I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but if it comes out within the next couple weeks, then the Kickstarter will still be going. So that's a fun way to support. Obviously, reach out to me on LinkedIn and follow me there. And on other social media, I have a lot of content out there to help job seekers for free. So there's that. If you're interested in coaching, feel free to reach out as well.
Okay. What would you like to say about your guest experience on this show?
Yeah, I enjoy having an ability to share and share myself with different people. So I've appreciated that you've come prepared and had the questions ready to chat about. So yeah, it's been fun. It's short and sweet, which I like. Makes it easy. And yeah, it's been a good time.
Okay. What's your final word?
Final word. Simplicity. I'm going to go back to the simplicity, because I think when you keep things simple, it helps people understand what you want, who you are, what your business is. And I think everything just needs to be more simple.
Thanks, Jordan, for sharing your wisdom with us on the behalf of our community. We really appreciate you. Until the next time, all good wishes to you.
All right. Thank you so much.